about brand, we talk about commerce, exchanging among our companies, catching opportunities to organize big events or to catch economic opportunities. Well, my question or my concern is how about other things? How about other key issues for cities? How about the social dimension of internationalization? Can we talk about this social dimension when we internationalize the city? How about culture? How about education? So I think there are many other issues beyond the economic approach, and with this I'm not telling that the economic approach is not key. Economy is fundamental for cities. Cities are engines of growth. They're the key actors for development, and economic development is key, and what happens in the global scene is fundamental to explain local economies. But I will pose this question: what about social issues? How can we build, or can we strengthen or reinforce our identity by building international policies in the field of social actions or in culture? Identity is fundamental to build a strong brand. I was talking with a colleague during the pause. For example, for Barcelona, identity has been crucial to build our brand, to build our model, and to export this brand. So, what can we make? Today we have in Europe, there are some cities leading in the international scene or in the international arena with another social challenge. The refugees crisis, migrants. How can cities be making policies to be involved in the management of this crisis? Or education is another key challenge for the internationalization of cities. So my concern is how could we go beyond this economic approach? Which I insist is really necessary. But how could we introduce to our strategies some other dimensions that are fundamental for the city, that are capital to build social cohesion, to build identity, and that could also be fundamental issues for the international exchange, for making policy at the international arena. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Agustin. We have with us Josep Lluís Alay from the Barcelona Provincial Council, and the main topic is an important argument that was presented by Agustin Fernandez, the idea that cities, the idea of being international, an international actor should be beyond the economic approach. I think he proposed some ideas. If you want to share your ideas with us about these strategies, territorial priorities. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. Yes, I basically agree with what he was saying regarding the main goals of what we call international projection for our municipalities. Well, Barcelona Provincial Council somehow rules, coordinates 311 different municipalities, and the profile for these different municipalities is very different, as you may guess. I understand, I know that I'm basically in a meeting for metropolitan areas. Our region includes Barcelona metropolitan area, but also includes very much different territories, from high mountain territories in the Pyrenees with very small villages to the coastline, where we have many different kinds of cities. And what I mean is that each of these municipalities, not only cities, have a different profile. So it's very difficult for me to say there is only one recipe to give an international projection plan for each of them. After saying this, of course, agreeing that the economic probably approach is very important, it's fundamental for the internationalization of one of these municipalities. I'm also, well, very much convinced that the cultural aspect is also very important. So culture, heritage for a city is somehow the way identity reflects more deeply in a society. So we need to follow probably not only two, well, within culture, I would say also education is very important. We have some examples of cities around 80,000, 90,000 inhabitants like Terrassa and Sabadell. Sabadell is very strong, probably economically in some aspects, has a very strong point, which is having an airport, which is not something very common, let's say, at least in the province of Barcelona. And Terrassa, which is just about a few kilometers away from Sabadell, they have a very strong, high education system. So we try to combine both cities for making, no, I wouldn't say a unique, only one international projection plan, but two plans which are somehow coordinated. And this is the main, let's say, this is the main function of the administration I represent. So basically, we are a coordinator at regional level. And when I say regional, I mean the province of Barcelona, which, well, by the way, is almost 8,000 square kilometers, so it's 5.5 million inhabitants, which is rather large. It's, to give you an idea, what we are talking about is 75% of Catalonia's population. So it's the main engine of the entire nation. So of course, most of the GDP is basically produced in this region. But we have very, very different cases. What I would agree, and I think this is a common view in the whole province, is that each municipality needs its own internationalization plan. That probably this plan will have to look, of course, first on which are the strengths of this municipality, which might be very different from, let me say, Bagà, a 2,000 inhabitant city in the high Pyrenees, to Sitges, which is a city by the coastline, which have, of course, very different strengths. But all of them, and these strengths might be in aerial aspects, as you mentioned, just to reply, to answer to your question. So what is more important? What we should start first by the aerial interest or by the territorial interest? And I think this is, well, this is a political strategy as well. So we understand that each city has its own strengths, probably aerial strengths. But then, again, the coordinator, the regional government, should have some also geographical priorities. To come back to my particular case, so usually the Conferencia de Barcelona has been very much focused on increasing, strengthening international relations with Latin America and with the Mediterranean Sea. Well, we see, I think these priorities have fallen recently, so we give a more open vision. So we need to strengthen very much our relations with sub-Saharan Africa, for instance, and with Asia. For many reasons. Many of you, of course, would see this very naturally, but also Agustin mentioned, we have to also face somehow the issues related to migration, which I didn't mention so far, which is very important in our country. So the regional coordinator in this case, which is also coordinated with a national coordinator, let's say in this case Catalan government, we have also to put some strategic, I think, strategic priorities for our geographical dimension. We cannot forget that, well, one of the most important communities from foreign origin in, for instance, in the metropolitan area of Barcelona is Pakistan. So we have never had any political relation with Pakistan at any level, you might guess, at any level. Of course, it's a difficult, let's say, target for an international projection. But I come back to the first point. So it can be that only economical interests drive the policy of a government. So there is something more, very important, which is the relation with our own citizens. And if we have here, let's say, the metropolitan area, more than 50,000 people who are from Pakistani origin, who are born in Pakistan, and most of them, I have to say, still hold a Pakistani passport. They are not still with nationality, Spanish nationality. So we have to address somehow also the international relations of these citizens through the municipalities they are leading. So this will help also to integrate in a better way, in a softer way, these citizens of our country in their own societies.
Thank you very much. So the last two participants have told us about the need to not concentrate on the economic side, and also the challenges of differences and diversity in each. So there is no magic formula recipe that fits everyone. I would like to ask Jordi Torrent from the Port of Barcelona, what about the role of infrastructures in the idea of building a narrative, an idea, a brand of a city? That since you come from an important actor in economic, social, political actor here in Barcelona, is the port, what do you think is the role of infrastructures such as the Port of Barcelona in the idea of the internationalization of a city or a metropolitan area?
Thank you. Let me start by denying the question. Okay? We are not an infrastructure. Okay. It's true that we are known as an infrastructure. Okay. But I'm not an engineer. Okay. I have studied law. Many of my colleagues are engineers. It's true. Okay. By law in Spain, still till 2 years ago, the director of the port had to be an engineer. Okay. By law. This has changed in the last port reform, law port reform in a couple of years ago. So, because most ports, I would say at least in Europe, don't consider themselves just as infrastructure, although we are known as an infrastructure. We like to say that we are a business promoter. Okay, it's true that our main purpose is to build infrastructure, but lately, in the last 10 years, most port authorities, you can name many of them, Rotterdam, Hamburg, Marseille. I'm speaking about Europe. We can do something similar, probably from the United States or other places in the world. Are more business promoter than infrastructure managers, let's say. Let me say also that ports, by definition, are international actors. Okay, this is very important. Well, I spend half of the year abroad traveling because ports is where international trade takes place effectively. Okay, where goods that come from one place touch land in order to reach another place. So this is where international trade takes place. Most of our customers, there are very few customers, big customers, local now. Most of our customers are international. Most of our concessioners, tenants, okay, because we are a landlord port that we rent the land to private companies. They are 90%. They are international. Okay, so we are an international organization. Okay, and as such, we do a lot of international relations as port authority. Okay, lots with customers, with concessioners, and sometimes even also with cities, with regions. Okay, in our sector, it's very funny because, for instance, when we deal with Chinese actors, public or private, very often they force you to sign a memorandum of understanding or a sister port agreement. No? This is something that always at the beginning when I started working at the port, I found surprising that Chinese, they always wanted to sign a sister port agreement. So, but why do you not want to sign a sister port agreement? Okay, so let's sign it. Okay, so we do as ports lots of international relations, and I would say, and this probably is linked more to the topics of the session today. In the past, at least from Barcelona, I would say, we used to do this quite independently from the city, no? And we're like an alien, no? Although we are in the city, we're like an alien, no? And we could do more or less what we wanted. And this has changed recently, I would say, a lot. This has also a lot to do with the governance model of ports. In particular, for instance, in Spain, ports don't belong to the municipalities, they belong to the central government. So this is why, one of the reasons also why we had less relation that we should have with the city, okay? Because we belong to the port, to the Ministry of Public Works of Spain. Contrary to what happens, for instance, in the Netherlands, that the port of Rotterdam belongs to the municipality, or in Hamburg, that it belongs to the land of Hamburg, or other places in Europe. Okay? So, but I say, this has changed a lot in the last years, and now we cooperate a lot with the city and with the region when we go abroad, and in particular, when we go, we try to find investments or attract investments into the port and in the region, okay? Because what we have achieved in the last years with the city, with the region, no, is to sell, let's say, together Barcelona as a very good place to invest in distribution centers, logistics centers, in order to serve an area beyond Spain, no, Western Europe, North Africa. And this is something we do together with the city, with the region, and sometimes also with the Spanish state. Okay? So I would say that now, contrary to what happened 10 years ago, we cooperate a lot with the city in the promotion of the city, no, in order to attract foreign investment. And this is also, and I will finish here, and with the city, no, and it depends also obviously on the political objectives of each government of the city, no? And each government has its own